Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be doing a full try on and wear test of the new NYX Bear With Me Blur Foundation Tint. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright guys, so this is the first drugstore foundation try on for this year. I am expecting to do a lot more. But this is from NYX. This is their new Bear With Me Blur Blurring Tint Foundation. So the description says, achieve instantly smooth, filter-like blurred skin in 24 diverse shades, formulated to enhance your color and tone. Medium buildable coverage with a matte blurred finish that feels lightweight on the skin and provides 12 hours of hydration. This is formulated with glycerin, matcha, and niacinamide for skin so smooth, no filter needed. So we'll see about that. This does have a 12-month shelf life, and you get 1 fluid ounce of product, which is standard for all foundations. It does come in a little squeeze tube, and I picked up the shade Light Ivory. I wanted the shade Fair, but it was out of stock, so I picked up this one. And I have worn this once already, and the shade does work quite well for me. But today I'm actually going to do the full wear test, try it out, do some things, and see how it goes. When I tried it on the other day, it looked pretty good all day. It was matte, but it wasn't too matte. So we're gonna put it to the test today. So I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit on my palette. And I will say this does come out of the tube quite quickly, so you're probably gonna end up getting more than you intended. That's one thing I will mention. So this is what it looks like on my palette. It is definitely a little bit on the thicker side, but also not too thick. It reminds me quite a bit of how I described the Makeup by Mario. And like I do with my other foundation wear tests, one side I'm going to prime and powder like I would any other day. The other side I am going to not use any of those products. So on the side that I'm priming and powdering, I'm going in with the Tarte Timeless Smoothing Primer. I just like this one for the center of the face to kind of blur pores, things like that. And I just like to lightly press it in, and then I also like it on my forehead to kind of smooth out those forehead lines. I've had those forehead lines my entire life. And I'm going to use a brush. Because this is a little thicker, I think I want to use my BK Beauty 101 brush. Okay, so the shade does work surprisingly well for me. I was not expecting it to. I thought it was going to be too deep, but I would say it's definitely kind of flexible, which is good because if you're only going to have 24 shades. But the shade did work really well for me and adjust quite quickly. It does seem to really smooth everything out and even out the skin really quickly. When I think of a skin tint, I definitely think of something that is going to be much more lightweight, much thinner, maybe just blur out the skin, but I would definitely say this gives a really nice medium coverage. The first time I tried this foundation, I used my Fox 4 brush from Sigma and Brianna Fox, and it was a little harder to blend out, but the thing with these two brushes is that this one is much more dense, and it obviously covers a lot more surface area, but it's quite a bit more dense, whereas this one it's still dense, but it's not nearly as dense as this one. It's a bit more fluffy. So this one I really like for those really thin formulas, like the Rare Beauty Tinted Moisturizer, whereas this one is so good for those thicker formulas. So I just thought that was something interesting to point out. I really, really like how quickly and easily this evened out my skin tone. It really just sort of pulled everything together, and it was super quick. I will say that blended fast. So let's try on this side. So this is the primed side. And this shade really is a perfect match for me. So what I noticed the other day when I tried this is that it's definitely matte. It definitely is, and typically I don't love something like that. I do have dry skin, so I need a little bit more hydration. I'm also Canadian, and it is January, so my skin is the driest it's going to be all year right now. So it was definitely a risky move to try a matte foundation in these conditions. But when I did this the other day, I definitely found it was matte, but it somehow still didn't cling to my dry patches, and it wasn't uncomfortable. So I thought that was very interesting. And looking at my skin right now, I feel like both sides look the same. So the side that I used a pore filling primer, it really doesn't look any different than the side that I didn't prime. It doesn't seem to be clinging to dry patches anywhere. It definitely looks matte, but it evened out my skin so well. I really, really like how this looks, and it blended out so quickly. I'm very impressed by how quickly this blended out. This is definitely a product I think I would reach for if I was in a hurry to get out the door. I'm really, really loving how this looks. I am just gonna use a little bit of my Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Concealer for under the eyes, but I don't really need to spot conceal anywhere. I am still going to set both under eyes. I just won't be fully powdering the one side of my face. So good. Okay, I'm just gonna grab my Pat McGrath under eye powder. I was gonna use my Dior Powder No Powder, but I'm starting to think maybe I'm not a fan of that one on my under eyes. So I'm just grabbing a little bit of this. And that's all the powder we need over here. Okay, and then I'm just gonna take a little bit of that powder as well down the center. Okay, and I do feel like that just mattified my base a little bit more, particularly in the middle, but otherwise I still think it looks pretty good. And one thing I'm noticing as well, I like to mention, some foundations have a really tacky finish to them and you have to powder. One thing I'm noticing with this one so far is that even the side that I have not powdered does not feel tacky. So I love that. So definitely a matte product, but it still feels very comfortable. It feels very lightweight. It genuinely does not feel like I have anything on my skin right now. So I'm very happy with that. Let me pop off camera. I will finish the rest of my makeup and I will be back to get the wear test started. So the rest of the makeup is on, and what I did notice, just as an aside, that the side that I did not powder has already kind of settled into my smile lines. Most foundations do, but I just wanted to mention that it did kind of crease before I finished my makeup. However, I would normally powder that area. So just to be fair, so far, I think this looks so good on my skin. It's definitely matte. There's no doubt about that, but it is still so comfortable. It still doesn't feel like anything on the skin. Normally foundations that are super matte will make my face feel a little bit dry, a little bit tight. I do get that feeling sometimes, so I usually know if something is too dry. This is not giving me that feeling. If anything, I feel like the side that I powdered has a little bit more of a dry feel to it. However, that's typical of powder. I really love how easy this blended on the skin, how quickly it just blended out. It seemingly just melted into the skin and then evened out my skin tone. I love that. Definitely a solid medium coverage. I love the way my skin looks. Definitely a really nice everyday kind of a coverage, in my opinion. I also really like that it's not tacky if I don't powder. So far, I really like this. I think this is gonna be a really good product. However, as I wear it throughout the day, I might notice that it does start clinging to dry patches and feeling a little bit heavier, so we'll see. But so far so good. I really like this so far, and I will see you guys at the end of the day. Hopefully, I'm hoping to get a good 10 hours in on this wear test, but I will see you guys at the end of the night to let you know how this wore. All right, guys, so we are at the very end of the night, and we are at just a little bit over 10 hours of wear with this foundation, and I love this. So just really quickly for reference, I have dry skin. I live in Canada. It is January, so I had all of the things going against me. This is a matte foundation, so I knew that there was a possibility this may not work out the best, but I put on the makeup, I did some stuff around my house, I ran some errands, so I've been outside a few times, and this foundation is still looking really good. So since I did my makeup, I have had lunch, I've had dinner, so I am noticing it has kind of rubbed off my nose, but that's pretty normal for me. And then same with my chin, but because I was eating, I'm pretty sure that's why. However, the rest of my face still looks so good. I do think it looks a little bit drier where I powdered, but it definitely doesn't look like it's clinging to dry patches in an unflattering way. And on the side that I did not prime or powder, it still looks exactly the same. They both seem to have held up the exact same. And I noticed when I first put this foundation on, it was settling into my smile lines, but once I powdered that out initially, when I first did my makeup, it didn't do it again, and I didn't add any powder. So I'm kind of pleased with that. I don't know what exactly happened there. And I will say the areas where the makeup is kind of worn off, it's done so in a graceful way, so you can't really tell unless you're right up close to me. So I love that, and it has stayed feeling very comfortable, very lightweight. It doesn't feel like I'm wearing a full face of makeup, but we can also see that it has held on to my blush, to my highlight, to my bronzer. It's held on to all of those things very well. So I'm very, very pleased. So this so far is a hit for me. I'm going to continue wearing it regularly, and I will of course update you guys at the very end of the month. But for a medium coverage matte foundation from the drugstore, this is a really good one. I wasn't 100% sure if I would love this. The packaging seems very inexpensive. I will say you do get a lot out initially, but I did end up using it all. So that was kind of interesting to me as well. I do really, really like this. I've really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to continue using this and update you guys at the end of the month. But based on my first full day wear test, I love this. And even when I tested it the other day, I was really impressed with it. And I love how the powder and primer really had no effect on whether this wore well or not, because both sides performed exactly the same. So I'm very impressed, I do have to say. I still prefer my NARS and my Makeup by Mario. I do prefer a slightly more glowy finish, but this definitely gives great coverage, super lightweight, and very long lasting so far. It held up through a lot on me today, especially for a matte foundation. I don't think I've ever had a matte foundation cooperate quite this well. So I will say that this is an absolute hit. I think NYX really did a great job with this one. But that is it for this wear test. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know down below if you're planning to pick this one up, or if you have any questions that I maybe didn't answer, let me know. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!